Welcome to Season 5 of Talking Home Renovations with the House Maven. I'm your host, Catherine McPhail. I am an architect practicing in Massachusetts. My passion is old houses, new technologies, and sustainability. Previous seasons of this podcast have featured many vendors, subcontractors, architects, designers, covering many aspects of renovations and hiring professionals to help. In this season, I'll be focusing on collecting even more renovation stories because we can all learn from each other and I just can't resist talking to people about their houses. We've got another renovation story today. This one, a 5,100 square foot Queen Anne Victorian in Buffalo, New York. Stacey and Rick Forgensi, the people behind the Instagram account This Old House Allentown, joined me to talk about their fifth renovation, which is a truly amazing house that I'm looking forward to seeing one day. We talked about window repair, getting unwanted smells out of the house, taking down walls, and more. So here's my conversation with Stacey and Rick. Well, first, I just want to say, Rick and Stacey, thank you for coming on and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
So tell me about Allentown, which we were just discussing. I thought was Pennsylvania, but turns out it's the historic district of Buffalo, New York.
So we live in Buffalo, New York, and the neighborhood we live in is called Allentown. It's very small. It's a preservation district where all the houses in Allentown are on the preservation, district. And it's only about 1 square mile.
That's a pretty good amount of houses to be preserved. I think I'll have to go over and check it out.
Yeah. And all the houses are pretty much Victorian style from turn of the century. Buffalo has a lot of architectural history. This was always a neighborhood that I've always liked since I was a kid. There's a lot of restaurants. It's very walkable. Shops. It's near the theater district. It's near the Elmwood Village. So it's a pretty historic area, and we like it here.
And so how long have you been there?
We've been here for 5 years.
At your current house?
Yes.
Okay. And then it's an 1895 Victorian?
It's an 1895 Queen Anne, 5,100 square feet. It was originally built by a prominent local brewer. His name was George Ginther.
Huh?
And he was the president of a lot of local breweries, but most notably Phoenix Brewery. And it was originally a single-family home. During the Great Depression and Prohibition closed down all the breweries, the house was then divided into a 5-family home.
Wow, 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And over the years, it was converted back to a 3-family home. We're restoring it back to a single-family home, and that's how we're living in it now. But we are converting an area upstairs that's going to be an Airbnb.
Okay.
A lot of our neighbors Airbnb, and we're in a good neighborhood to do that. So that's what one of the units will be.
Well, that's interesting. So did you say it was 5,100 square feet or 61? Yeah. 51?
51. Mm-hmm.
That's a very large house. You probably have noticed that.
We figured we would leave it as a 3-unit, like to be returned back to that. It's not, if we sold it at a later date, not a lot of people want a 5,100 square foot home.
True.
And this way it could be easily divided back into 3 units if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I always say that we don't know what future people are going to want to do, but it is good to have that option with something that big. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they say that if you have over, I think, well, I don't know what the source is for this, okay? But when at some point in my life, someone told me over 3,000 square feet, you definitely need to hire a cleaning service. So
not a bad idea.
Yeah, but you can't manage it on your own. I mean, I can because I just ignore everything, so it wouldn't bother me. But
I ignore a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you come upon the house? It seems like you had an old house previously. So
it's kind of a long story, actually. Our previous house was also a Queen Anne Victorian, and we lived there for 23 years. It was kind of in a suburb of Buffalo in a country village type area. And we decided that we always like to come downtown and go to restaurants and things. And we were coming downtown a lot. We both worked downtown and we thought, why are we living so far? And when we retire, do we want to drive everywhere? We figured we would just rather live in a neighborhood where we could walk to things and do things. So
yeah, that makes sense.
We've always loved old houses. We've renovated. This is our 5th house we've renovated.
Whoa.
But we both had a long wish list of what we wanted. Rick, what was your wish list?
Mine was, if we were in the city, I wanted a driveway and a garage or the ability to build a garage. Because a lot of the lots in the city are small.
Yeah.
So that narrowed our search down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then what was your wish list, Stacey?
I had a much larger wish list, actually. And I wanted to downsize. Actually, I wanted an 1,800 square foot Craftsman because our previous house was a Victorian.
Okay.
I liked Craftsmans. I wanted to do that. We have a lot of that in the city. I also wanted something move-in ready, because I didn't want to renovate houses anymore.
Okay, so I can see you stuck to your list.
And then on top of that, I wanted stained glass. I wanted pocket doors, fireplaces, unpainted woodwork, a porch, lots of charm and character.
Okay.
So we looked for about 2 years.
Yeah.
We couldn't settle on anything. A lot of the houses we looked at, all the woodwork was painted. That was a big no. As soon as I saw that, I was out. They all needed a kitchen and a bathroom.
Right.
And I didn't want to renovate. Everything was, I could write a book on the ugliest kitchens and bathrooms in the city of Buffalo from all the houses we looked at.
That'd be kind of an interesting book, actually.
Yeah. When we got to this house, it kind of had everything on both of our wish lists, but it was in pretty bad disrepair, I would say. The exterior was covered in vines. It had peeling paint. The siding was bad. It had like a 10-foot hole in the roof that was leaking on the inside.
Funny how that's the fourth thing you mentioned, or fifth thing. You didn't mention that first.
And
That's
then,
easy to fix.
as we were waiting to come inside, there was a feral cat community outside.
Outside or inside?
Well, both.
Oh.
We found out, yeah. So then when we got to walk, we toured the inside of the house. I could barely stand to walk through it all because of the odor. They were chain smokers, and they had dozens of cats living inside and outside of the house.
Wow. You mean the owners had dozens of cats?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And she was a feral cat caretaker.
Apparently she was. Yeah.
So it was rough to walk through. In fact, some friends of ours walked through the house with us, and they had to leave. They couldn't even stand it long enough to get through the whole house.
Wow.
And, the house had a lot of charm. It had a lot of woodwork, a lot of beautiful woodwork, but a lot of it was painted, but a lot of it was unpainted. There were beautiful fireplaces and mantels, but they were all covered in brick and closed. It had original windows, which I liked, but they were all painted shut, nailed shut. They didn't work. The ropes were broken. What did have ropes were all painted. It was rough.
So how did this pass your test of the list?
Well, it kind of didn't. I was a hard sell. And then we had brunch at a restaurant across the street. Rick was like, this was the house. He was convinced that this was the house, and he was tired of looking. And it was this house or no house. So we were going to stay where we were. So
okay.
I kind of agreed to it. And then we discussed the renovation work. And I said I wanted a move-in-ready house, and this house clearly was not. And we decided that it would be like a 6-month plan.
Of course. That seems like, why not have it be finished in 6 months?
Yeah. And I was told that, we can get rid of the smell in the house, and let's do it. So we did.
How'd you get rid of the smell? A lot of people have asked me that recently.
Well, it was difficult, actually. I went through probably 8 to 10 bottles of Murphy's oil soap, just cleaning everything over and over and over again. And then it would be a hot summer day. I would come in, I could smell it all again.
Yeah.
We actually didn't live in the house for the first year. We kept our old house, and we would just come here and work on it because it smelled so bad. We couldn't stand it.
Wow.
And then I finally called ServPro because, they always have the commercials they clean out the houses after a fire, and they can get rid of all the odor and stuff.
Right.
And so the woman there told me that, yeah, we could take your money, but those are the 2 hardest things to get rid of, and we're probably not going to be able to help you. So I had a few moments where I broke down a few times thinking, what did we do? We're never going to get rid of this. And just after repeated cleaning, sanding down all of the floors and refinishing everything, getting it all out of everything, it finally went away.
What about the fogging machine?
Oh, yeah. And I bought a fogging machine from a company that fogs with a eucalyptus all natural product.
Oh, that's a good idea. So that seeps into the
and
plastic.
She came in and she kind of said the same thing. She's like, yeah, I could take your money. She goes, but I'd have to come back so many times. And she convinced the company to sell me the machine.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. And we bought it, and we fogged it religiously and cleaned it and fogged it and cleaned it and fogged it and redid all the woodwork, and the smell went away.
Yeah, it's gone.
That's a big house to unsmell. Did she smoke mostly in one room? Was it worse downstairs, for example?
Oh, no, the whole house.
The whole house.
They had tenants living, because it was 3-family, and the owners lived in the downstairs, and they were both chain smokers. And then their daughter lived in one of the units upstairs, and they were chain smokers. And all 3 units had cats. And they said, the one tenant told us that the side staircase, they would let the feral cats just run up and down the stairs, just spraying pee.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not helpful. Well, that's great. No. So that's good. That's good way to get rid of the smell. So that's going to be helpful. Helpful for me too, because It doesn't smell, luckily, it doesn't smell like smoke in here, but can you imagine, back in the 70s or when I was growing up in the 70s, people just smoked all the time, everywhere. Everywhere must have smelled like that, but we just maybe didn't notice so much.
Yeah.
Well, times change. Okay. All right. So then you ended up fixing it up for a year and then sold your other house and moved in. And it's been just, that's it. You were just finished in a year, or did you stick to that schedule?
Nope.
No, we didn't stick to that schedule at all. As we started doing rooms, we started doing more than what we anticipated. We actually hired an architect in the beginning just to give us, a plan of the layout, like what were load-bearing walls, what weren't. And I showed her things where, like, I thought I would want to put the kitchen. She was on a completely different plan. I mean, we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but she did give us a lot of good ideas. She wanted us to open up a lot of the house and make it like an open concept house like people like now.
Yeah.
But we weren't on that plan. We were like, we bought this house for the woodwork and stuff. We weren't going to take that down.
Right.
And she said, this is what people want nowadays. But I was like, I'm fine with the closed off rooms.
Me too, just for the record. I mean, I talk a lot about that, about walls, how walls are really great to have in a house. But yeah, if there's beautiful woodwork, why would you want to take it down?
Right,
exactly.
I think there's something to be said for having different uses in different rooms. Myself, even though your house is very big, it's nice to have a room that's the library, and it's nice to have a room that you play games in. And, I like that myself. So.
Yeah, and she did give us a good plan on the kitchen, because I was going to put the kitchen where it originally was when we bought the house. It was very old, probably from the 70s, 80s. And I was just going to gut that section, and we were going to put the kitchen where the kitchen existed. Leave the gas lines where they were, the water lines where they were.
Yep.
And she thought we were crazy. She just saw the light coming through the back of our house and convinced us that the kitchen was, since we were going to spend a lot of time there, it should be spectacular.
Well,
so she convinced us to use the whole back of the house as the kitchen. So we took what was a bedroom, a bathroom, a hallway, a kitchen, and a pantry and opened it all up. And made that one big kitchen because it's south facing and all the light came in from there. And there was a lot of windows. There's probably like 6 or 7 windows in there. Yeah. And where the kitchen used to be just faced our neighbor's house with one small window. It was very dark. It was very small. And she's like, do you want to spend your time in here? And I said, no, not really. So that project ended up taking us a year.
Those kitchen projects, they do take a while. Well, so now do you have a huge sunny kitchen that you love?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
And she did want us to take down the wall between the kitchen and the dining room. Well, these old houses have beautiful dining rooms, has beautiful wainscoting on the walls and everything. And I didn't want to take that down, so I was not on that plan.
And that wall was load bearing.
And it was load bearing. And then we had the cabinetry. There's beautiful built-in cabinetry.
Yeah.
And she didn't like it all. She said it was very awkward. But we convinced her we were keeping that.
Yeah.
But
well, not all architects are the same, of course.
Yeah.
So it's important to find one that is on your same, has the same interest level that you do in certain things. Things you love about your house. It would be good if the person you hire also loves that. So just to make it more harmonious. Well, okay. So then you did the kitchen. I mean, there's a lot of room in there. What do you have any? I imagine you have a billiards room. This is what I imagine when you tell me it's a 5,100 square foot Queen Anne. Really? Is it going to? Have you been to the Mark Twain house in Connecticut? He has that billiards room up in the 3rd floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you about our 3rd floor, our plans out there.
Yeah, we have the attic in this house. The ridge beam is 23 feet above the floor. It's just a huge roof.
On the 3rd floor, it's 23 feet to the ridge?
It's in the attic.
Whoa.
Yep, this is in the attic. They finished off some rooms up there. They boxed off some areas. I think people must have lived there at one time.
Yeah, there's like chair rail molding and wainscoting on the walls. So clearly it was living space at some time.
Yeah, and about half of it is just open. And we're going to, and that's probably last on the list, but it's going to be a game room, like you said, billiards, foosball, and a bar.
Nice.
And we're not going to heat it.
We did put a fireplace up there.
Yeah, so maybe on the off months, but in the dead of winter, it won't be used. I just, we don't want to heat that area.
Is it the whole entire footprint of the house at 23 feet?
It's like 2,500 square foot, that whole attic area.
Space.
Oh.
The plan is, just make it a game room in the warmer months. And it's going to be spectacular because the woodwork when I say woodwork, just the framing in that, just looking at it is amazing.
Yeah, it has that look of kind of like a summer house, like an old summer house, the shingle style type house that they didn't finish, but that has a beautiful old wood.
Yeah, and the house has a turret. So the 3rd story turret is pretty cool too, because if you're standing inside of it, it looks like you're in the inside of a giant wine barrel.
Oh, very
cool. It just
cool.
has all the framing and stuff in the peak.
Yeah, I don't even know how they did it. Everything's curved, and each slat in the roof, they made it like a barrel stave, right? It's all angled, and you're like, it must have took so long. No one would do that today.
No, they wouldn't.
We just want to show it, right? And let people see the craftsmanship from the day.
Fun. Well, that's good. So that'll take care of your 3rd floor, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you just have on the 1st floor. Do you have any unusual rooms?
So the 1st floor, we have the turret in the 1st floor, which we use. We have cocktails and stuff in there when we have company.
Nice. So it's a cocktail room, or what do you call it?
The turret.
The turret. That makes sense.
But you know what? It's got the beautiful fireplace in there. We put gas insert in there. All the woodwork again is, and I don't know how they must have steamed it or something, but the base moldings are probably 14 inches high, and they're all curved, and they look beautiful.
The windows are curved too. It's all curved glass. Yeah. And we did open up all the fireplaces. They were all bricked in. We opened all of those up and had gas inserts put in all of them. So it's got a nice fireplace in there.
That sounds beautiful.
Then we have the dining room, which is off of the kitchen. We had the old butler's pantry upstairs. So we moved it downstairs and put that in our kitchen. So we took that. The one that was downstairs was in the garage, and it was just covered in cat pee and paint. And
it was destroyed. It was chopped up.
It was destroyed. So we moved the one from upstairs downstairs. So we have the old butler's pantry in the kitchen. Then we have 2 living rooms down here. We're going to take one wall down and make it one giant living room eventually. And we have a big fireplace in there.
And the wall we're going to take down isn't original. They put it up just to make more rooms.
Yeah. So originally they had a giant living room.
Yeah, we think so, because back in the Victorian days, usually the front living room had a fireplace.
Yeah.
And this first room does not. The second one did. So we think it was all one room at one time.
Yeah, and it's not even plaster, right? It's drywall.
It's drywall.
Oh, yeah,
so
that makes sense.
It was put up whenever. So we don't mind taking that down because it wasn't original.
Well, that's going to be quite a grand room.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has beautiful moldings, too. Beautiful crown molding is about, I'm looking at it right now, about 2.5 feet tall crown molding.
What? Really? How tall are the ceilings?
10-foot ceilings.
10 foot?
Wow.
Yeah.
The way they had the house configured, it's easy to put back to a single-family home because the whole downstairs was one unit. And then there's a side entry for the house. We have a front and a back entry that we can get to the downstairs. And then there's a side entry off the driveway where if you go up the stairs, you turn left, it was one unit, and you turned right, and it was another. So it's just a door separating it. So then that section of the house we want to Airbnb has 2 fireplaces, 2 bedrooms, kitchen that we're currently working on now.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and the bathroom, we've already done the bathroom. We raised the ceilings back up. They were lowered at some point in time.
Yeah, with the roof leaking, they didn't fix the roof. And instead of repairing the ceiling from water damage, they built a false one underneath it, like 2 feet lower. So,
okay. Well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah. So we took all that down, and then we removed the old ceiling because there was too much water damage.
The way we actually discovered it is our dogs discovered it. They were in the attic, and they crawled under a space into a little room, and we could hear them licking water. And what they did was they just put plastic bins in this little room and made a plastic chute where the water was coming from the leaking roof into these bins, and the bins were just overflowing and leaking into the house.
Yeah, what was the plan for the bins?
I don't think they had a plan.
They just put them up there.
They loved the house.
Yeah.
The people who lived here for like 45 years or something. And I think it just got to be too much for them eventually.
Yeah.
They weren't handy people. I think you have to be handy to own an old home.
Yeah. Do you have any, you've renovated so many houses. Were there any surprises in this particular house or?
No matter what room we did, we opened up a can of worms somewhere.
Yeah, we're used to, right? We're used to, we always have a plan. and it always has to change, and it always takes us longer and costs us more.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've learned that everything
That's a good
takes,
summary right there.
Yeah, everything's going to take us 3 times as long and cost us 3 times as much. That's what we've learned.
So like for the kitchen in the back, like our plan was we're just going to, freshen it up, leave everything in place, and we don't have to do the plumbing, electrical, and all that. And it turned into a huge renovation, and we build our own cabinetry. And we had to, we do all our own electrical and plumbing and whatnot. So by moving everything, it took a lot longer, but the end result, it was much better. It was worth it.
Plus, when we moved all the walls to make the kitchen, all the ductwork that led to the upstairs, where all the heat, water, gas lines, everything, we're now in the middle of our kitchen. And we had to remove all that. And
move it.
And the whole upper apartment that was above that, we turned into our master suite, and we really don't have much heat up there.
No,
We still haven't quite figured that part out yet, how we're going to manage that.
Well, you only need heat certain times of the year anyway. So.
We did put heated floors in, so that helps.
Do you sleep in stocking caps?
Yeah.
I used to do that at my old house.
A lot of covers.
A lot of blankets.
Yep. I do love the idea of it, just planning on it taking 3 times longer, 3 times more expensive, and all the rest of it. Well, it's great that you do all the work yourself, though, because, I don't know, it's like a kind of a really fun hobby, kind of.
It's become fun, but it's not always. And the other thing we found out is contractors don't want to do the work. They don't want to work on old homes. They don't want to work with the old electric and the plaster walls and the elaborate moldings. They don't want small jobs. They're all looking for a big job. So like even with our last house, when we did the kitchen, we were going to contract that out. And, we called about 10 places. I think 2 people showed up to give us an estimate, and we never got the estimate. So it was like, well, I guess we got to do it ourselves. Yep. And we had to learn how to do things ourselves. And back then, we didn't have the internet. And, we didn't have ways to Google things and figure out how to do it. And we never did it before. We had to buy books and learn how to do it. Now you can pretty much look up anything on the internet and figure out how to do it.
Yeah. That does change a lot. It changes a ton, actually. But it doesn't make it any easier to physically do it. You just might have more direction as to what to do.
Yeah, and we did things a lot better, So we figured out how to do a heated floor in the bathroom, and that's how I learned how to tile, was on the internet. Those were things I'd never done before.
Oh, that's great. So is this your favorite house that you've had so far?
I think it is now.
Yeah.
It definitely has the most character of any house that we've owned.
And the location's great.
The location we love.
Yeah. And
I'd love for it to be done.
Really, though? I mean, when it's done, are you going to just stay there, or do you think you'll want to maybe downsize?
Rick doesn't want to downsize, no.
No. I would think, if the Airbnb portion works out, I would love to stay here. Like I said, the location's great, plenty of space, and, for the city, it's quite a yard.
Yeah, we do have a nice backyard.
Yeah.
So you got your garage? Right?
Yep, got my garage.
We got a 4-car garage.
Got a 4-car garage.
Whoa.
It's not huge. I mean, it's not deep. Like my last car that I had didn't fit in it. So I had to downsize my car to fit in the garage.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't make the garages quite as big back then.
No.
Yeah, but the cars weren't tiny, so I don't really understand that. But
but when you did the research on the house, Stace, at the Historical Society, right? You were looking at the drawings. And I think you said you saw the garage showed up in the 20s.
Yeah. It wasn't there initially.
It wasn't there.
Yeah. So your house was originally belonged to a prominent brewer, and then it kind of, went on kind of hard times during the Depression, where a bunch of people lived there and they were just living in the house, but not necessarily there because they wanted an old house.
Yep.
And then it sounds like maybe the last owners were a little more into the old house aspect of it.
Yep.
And then just got too tired.
Yeah.
Which I can relate to. And
it's interesting because Rick and I both are home brewers. So
you are?
Yeah, we thought that was interesting that the original owner was a brewer. So we're going to make a beer lab upstairs.
Awesome.
Kind of great. Commemorative, to him.
What are you going to call the beer?
Haven't thought about that.
You could name it after him. What was his name?
George Ginther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually have, there's a carriage stoop in front of our house with his name on it. Like back in the day, they had those. And his great-grandson,
I think it is great-grandson,
contacted us a couple of years ago and asked us if he could have that carriage stoop.
Oh, and you said no.
I said no. I said we kind of we're trying to bring the house back to its original grandeur. And we did invite him over, and he came over, and I think he was very impressed with how we were restoring the house. He had never been in the house, but I think he enjoyed his time here, and he was okay with us keeping it, because what we were doing with the house.
Yeah, it makes sense to keep it there. Yeah.
To me, the biggest thing is patience, do it right. A lot of time, like we said, right? It always takes longer, but it's worth it to do it right,
I get a little impatient. Rick does the behind the scenes kind of work. He's rewiring the whole house.
When you're doing the electrical, of course, it's a lot easier if you open the whole wall up and take everything out. But with the woodwork, we don't want to touch it. So it takes a little longer, to find and feed wire and get the plumbing in and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But when you're done, it's still got the original look.
And I like the old plaster walls. I didn't want to take any of that.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah, so we save as much as possible.
Yeah.
And the extra effort's worth it. And it's nice to have the updated mechanicals, right? The updated wiring, updated plumbing and whatnot. So you have that convenience. And then with the old look.
Yeah. How do you get it in there? One of my houses, we cut I don't know what we call it, cut a channel in the wall at about 25 inches or so. So it's just a strip that was gone. And so they just used that and then they patched that. And
yeah, it's called a hot patch. Yep. And
hot patch.
That's one way to do it. Another way is, so in the attic, I could see when they put in the knob and tube, the older wiring, because the house was built before electricity.
Yeah.
So when they added it, you could see in the floor where they removed floorboards. Mm. You saw the original, and then you could go, oh, yeah, look, where they face nailed them back down. And, there's a little damage from prying them up. So you can figure out what they did, and you can re-pull that up. And I'll get wire into the attic and then drop it back down the walls in there. Mm. Then you don't have to do that hot patching. There's some rooms where we want to add wiring where it was never there. And we do exactly what you said. You cut that channel and you feed it to the wall.
And it takes a long time. I mean, It takes months to do one room. So kind of while he does that and I'm getting impatient, I decide, I'm going to strip the woodwork in this room. Things that I wasn't really planning on. But then I end up stripping the woodwork, and we take all the windows out. As we do a room, we fix the windows. And so I can work on that stuff while he's doing the behind the scenes kind of things, the plumbing, the electric.
Yeah, you do a good job with the windows. She pulls them out, reglazes them, caulks up everything, new chains.
We put chains in where the ropes were.
And and then we end up, putting storm windows up also.
Where do you get your storm windows?
Where did you get those?
So I found this place called Allied Windows. They do, I had to have historic ones because we're in a preservation district, they had to be historic. And they're actually nice. They're all glass, and they're I don't know, some kind of glazing finish on it. I don't remember what, but it made a huge difference. And they're not super noticeable from the outside. They're not like the old 1950s triple track aluminum. They can do it, custom make them any color you want. We had screens put in them all so we can open, because there were no screens in the house. You couldn't open any windows. We have a lot of stained glass. The historic windows, I mean, they're still here. They're 130 years old and they're still working fine. And people buy these vinyl windows, and in 15 years,
I know,
replace them all, and they don't look good. We had a lot of plexiglass windows too in the house when we bought it that we discovered later on as, windows people broke. The neighborhood was not very good back in the 70s, and it was house had probably been broken into multiple times. And they just replaced windows with plexiglass. Yeah. So we had to get glass for those.
Tell her how we went, to one of the restoration places, and because the older glass is wavy and the new stuff is perfectly flat. Yeah. We would go find, there's a few restoration shops around here or salvage shops. We could go find an old window with the wavy glass. We would take it out and then cut it down to fit our windows. That's an excellent idea. Yeah, just so it looked the same.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because, my old windows, my old house, we had them rebuilt. But, there's the wavy part, and then there's obviously new parts. And so, I wish I'd thought of that.
Oh, yeah. And, they sell you the window for $5. Yeah. Right? They're like, you want that? Yep, $5. Give me it. And
Yeah.
That's what we usually do.
Great idea.
I did break one of the curved windows.
Yep.
One time I was painting in that room. Kind of forgot that the ropes were broken in there, and I had a paintbrush in one hand, and it was about 100 degrees out, and I just flipped the window up with the other hand, forgetting that it wasn't going to stay there, and it just came crashing down.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Yeah, that was an expensive repair because I found only 2 places in the whole country that make curved glass windows.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we won't think about that.
Yeah.
The good news is that they're back to being whole, right?
Yeah.
That must be. So actually, I do need to know about that. So did you send them the window and then they sent back the window with the glass in it? I mean, I guess that would be.
Well, they wanted the radius of the window, which we couldn't figure out how to do. And
right. That's what I would think. I just send in the whole window.
Yeah. So I tried to take the piece of broken glass and trace it on paper. And then I made the dimension of the window on the paper. And then I showed them where the curved part was that I could line up and had them kind of figure out the rest. And it wasn't perfect when I got it, but it was good enough. Like when I put it in and glazed it, it didn't line up exactly. But once you put the glazing in, then no one's ever going to know. Well, now they will because
now they will because
yeah, but
and then it was about $1,000 for that window
for one glass. Yeah,
because we had to pay for the glass, then I had to pay for a shipping crate to be made, and then I had to pay for the shipping. Mm-hmm. And while we did it, I said, as long as I'm paying for the crate and the shipping, the attic or the basement windows on the turret, they were all broken. And so I just had all those made too.
Yeah.
Well, that's not too, I mean, that's less than I thought it would be.
Well, that was about 5 years ago. I'm sure now it's more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just windows, any kind of unusual window can be $10,000 in itself. A new one, Well, that's great.
Yeah. When she's done restoring one of those, it's just so beautiful with the bronze chain and the woodwork's back and it functions now.
The paint's off of it because they painted all the hardware and everything when they painted. Like all the window pulls, the door handles.
Even the ropes.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And it's time consuming when you have like 50 windows.
Oh, yeah. It'll keep you busy. Yeah. But you're retired, you said, so.
No, I'm not.
I am.
Oh, all right.
Rick is newly retired.
Yeah, I retired at the end of the year, so I have more time to spend on the house now.
Were you in construction, either of you, or are you?
Well, I was an engineer for the power company.
Yeah.
And my family's been into construction. They had a construction business. So I had a background to begin with. Yeah.
Okay, well, that comes in handy, too.
Yes.
And Stacey, what about you? Is your career related to
I'm a nursing therapist, so no.
No. Yeah, you're not. Well, that's great. I mean, obviously, it's good to have a variety of interests. So, well, it seems like you've done a great job. So people can come stay at your house eventually when the Airbnb is done. When do you think that'll be?
We're hoping within 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm hoping by fall. The kitchen's almost done. Then we just have some more wiring to do.
Yeah, we did the bathroom already. Yeah. 1 bedroom's completely done. We'll have another bedroom and some wiring to do.
Well, I'd love to come out and stay there. Buffalo's, and I'd love to come see Buffalo.
Yeah.
I've only really driven by.
Come in the summer.
Yeah, are you kidding? I'm not going in the winter. I know enough about Buffalo not to try to go this time of year. Your Instagram is This Old House Allentown with underscores, right?
I think if you just type in This Old House Allentown with no spaces, it comes up.
They can follow along. Well, I've been enjoying it. I'm going to keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see your house.
Right.
Maybe you'll have the game thing going by the time I get up there.
Hopefully.
Not to say that, not assuming you'll just invite me into your regular house, but I'll probably ask.
Of course we will.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much for sharing this show with your friends. It is growing all the time, and I really appreciate that. I would love to hear from you if you have anything to say about this episode or past episodes, good or bad, or a suggestion for a new episode. Send me an email at thehousemaven@talkinghomerenovations.com. Talking Home Renovations with the House Maven is a proud member of Gable Media, the most engaged AEC network on the planet. Check out my other show and all the rest of the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABLMEDIA.com. And until next time, take it easy.
Part 3 is a collaborative, data-driven construction administration software built for architects and engineers. With Part 3, you'll complete your administrative tasks faster than ever before. You'll streamline your submittals, RFIs, change documents, and field reports with automation and intelligence. Stop wasting time on tedious tasks. Schedule a free demo of this transformative automation tool today at part3.io/getstarted. That's part3.io/getstarted. Experience construction administration performance today with Part 3.